Hello again and welcome to another Korp of Krieg tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Matt Redmond for sending in some awesome pictures of his Imperial Guard forces. These guys look absolutely fantastic. I love the conversions that you've done with the Cadian models. They look really good with the old style World War I German helmets and the gas masks. I know Matt that you do use these guys traditionally as sort of Valhallans, although you have switched to a custom trait, but I have to say these look really good as a Krieg Guardsman conversion as well. So it's really, they do look absolutely fantastic. So thank you for sending in these pictures, Matt. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, they can be conversions or they can be Korp of Krieg original models. Just please post them down on my Facebook page. There will be a link in the description below. So without further ado, let's get into today's Krieg video, and we will be looking at the dedicated transports available to the Korp of Krieg. So they do have a few options available to them, and to be honest, all of them are kind of unique. So they don't have access to things like your typical chimera or Taurox. They don't get those things, but they do instead get access to 4 options, all of which are pretty good. So the first one of those is the Centaur Light Carrier. Now this is 50 points, and it is light in the extreme. So it comes with 2 heavy stubbers, and you have the option to add a hunter killer missile to it, but that's the only weapon option it has. And its stats are movement 12, weapon skill 6+, ballistic skill 4+, strength 5, toughness 6, only 7 wounds, 2 attacks, leadership 7, and a 3+ save. So it is light. It is light. But before we get onto any special rules or anything like that, what's really interesting about this is that it doesn't degrade. Because it's got less than 10 wounds, it doesn't degrade. So it's always going to be smashing around the battlefield at 12 inches. And it's still got a 3+ save, and it's still got toughness 6. So whilst being a light transport, it is very nippy. Now we'll go through its abilities now. So it has the artillery tractor, so it can pull along those immobile artillery pieces that we looked at in the last video. When it does explode, and even though it's a light vehicle, people still take D3 mortal wounds from it, which is unusual because most of the time, if you're a vehicle that has less than 10 wounds, when you explode, the people around you only take 1 mortal wound, but they're still just D3, so keep that in mind. It does come with smoke launchers, and it can transport 5 infantry. So this is obviously designed for your smaller units like your engineers or command squads or commanders. That's what it's designed for. So it's a light vehicle. Now some people might think, well, wouldn't you put grenadier squads in there? And the answer is actually no, because of the next dedicated transport option that we're going to go through now, and that is the Korp Centaur Light Assault Carrier. And that's really important. Now I know a lot of people wanted me to talk about this vehicle in the Grenadier video that I did, well, the troop choice video, but I'm actually going to talk about it now in more detail because it does have some cool little special rules. So again, this is only 50 points, and it comes with the option to take a hunter killer. That is it. That's the only weapon option you can take on it. It has the artillery tractor. It does have the explode, same thing. It does have smoke launchers, and it can transport 5 guys. It has the same stats: 12-inch movement, 7 wounds, toughness 6, 3+ save. But the big thing about this is it has a special rule called the Assault Team Transport. If this unit is set up at the start of the game with Korp Grenadier Storm Squad within it, at the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins, you can move this unit up to 9 inches. It cannot enter this move within 9 inches of enemy models. Blah, blah, blah. It has the Scout rule. So like Scout Centaur, so that only works if you have Grenadiers inside it. Only works with Grenadiers inside it. Now, so that is really good. So what you could run with your Grenadiers is they obviously, your Grenadiers can't deep strike, but they can get access to this transport, which allows them to move up the field and be in play from turn 1. So you could use that to get some plasma in range, in rapid fire range, very early on. Because think about it, you could scout move 9 inches forward, and then get out 3 inches, move 6 inches towards the enemy, and you've got and you've got plasma guns in rapid fire range. So your threat range with this is actually 30 inches to get in rapid fire plasma range, which is very doable turn 1. Also, don't forget, I know it's weird, but if you're facing a heavy assault army and they've seized on you, and it looks like they're going to get a turn 1 charge on you, you could use its ability to deploy backwards out of charge range. That's always an interesting option. A niche option, but don't forget about it. And it's cheap, guys. It's the cheapest transport. The big thing about this is that it really contributes to a vehicle wall, to armor spam. So if you're if you're running your grenadiers as your only troop choice, and you're taking that sort of World War II blitzkrieg light armor style Krieg army that I've talked about before, then you want to take a lot of assault carriers, and then you're going to be taking your grenadiers are only 40 points for a squad of 5. Each guy's getting a lasgun because you can swap the sergeant's weapon out for a lasgun, for hotshot lasgun. And so between this and the centaur, you can get a decent mechanized infantry squad on the field for 90 points. Now, if you compare that to my Steel Legion, for example, where you've got to pay 78 points for the chimera with its weapons, and 48 points for the infantry squad, which is 126 points. This is 36 points cheaper. Okay, 36 points cheaper, and does the same thing as what my Steel Legion infantry do, which is grab objectives and annoy the crap out of people. So yeah, don't get me wrong, you're getting 5 extra bodies with the Steel Legion squad, you're getting more firepower from the chimera, totally true. But if your main function is to have infantry that can grab objectives and fill out detachments, then you want to keep them as cheap as possible. You're not interested in killing power. That 36 points that you save per squad, you can put into getting another Leman Russ, a Basilisk, which will have fundamentally more killing power, and it's dedicated to that. So it is a really good option, and it is very much something to be considered. You can either use this as a way to get your grenadiers across the board, delivering damage to the enemy as quickly as possible, or you can use it as an ability to get cheap objective grabbing mechanized Krieg troops onto the battlefield and save points for things like your conquerors and your tank commanders. So bear that in mind. So the next thing I would say, so I'd move on from that one. That it's a very, very good ability. Now the next one that you can take is the Deathcore Storm Chimera. Now this is more expensive. It's 98 points base. Okay, quite frankly, it is overcosted, but I imagine with the new Forge World book that we're hearing about, it will probably go down in points. So what do you get for your 98 points? Well, you get an autocannon and a heavy bolter. So it has an autocannon in the turret. Okay, so that's quite cool. Does make this have the ability to sling out some damage to weaponry. Not to be underestimated. The whole heavy bolter could be swapped out for a heavy flamer. You can take a hunter killer missile. You can take a pintle mount, heavy stubber or storm bolter, and you can also, for 10 points, so which would make it 108, give it storm armor and a mine plow. So that's interesting. They're the weapon options you have available to you. Now, what does that do? What does the storm armor and mine plow do? So the ablative storm armor, the vehicle receives +1 to its armor save rolls against weapons with strength 4 or less, and it ignores the effects of landmines on a 4+. So that second one is just, that second part is useless, I'll be honest. I don't know of any mines that exist. Although you do. I don't know if landmines are specific, but that you do have that incursor. the Space Marine and Cursors get that landmine. It could just ignore the effects of those landmines that are 4+ potentially. Very niche and probably not quite right, but interesting. But you're mainly taking that for the +1 armor against small arms, you know, strength 4 or less, which is what the Mars Alpha Pattern Lehman Russ gets inbuilt. Honestly, I don't think the Ablative Storm armor is worth it. You don't want to pay 108 points. At that point, at that level, you're looking at like the same cost as a Torx Prime, which are overcosted, and Torx Primes do a hell of a lot more. Now, it can take other rules when it explodes. It's the D6. It has smoke launchers. Otherwise, it has exactly the same stats as a Chimera. Normal Chimeras, nothing out of the ordinary there. It's got the same toughness, same wounds, same armor save. It can transport 12 infantry. You don't have to necessarily take this as a Death Corps Storm Chimera. It can take 12 infantry. And it comes with the 2 Lasgun arrays still as well. So there you go. So the main reason why you would look at this is because the autocannon and also the storm armor, but the storm armor unfortunately isn't really worth it. So it's just overcosted. The thing is, guys, this vehicle hasn't had its base points changed, unlike the Codex Chimera. So this should be the same cost as the Codex Chimera. It should be 60 points, but instead you're paying 80 points for it. You're paying 80 points for something that should be 60 points. So if this came down to the same costs as if this came down to the same cost as a regular Chimera, and then you just paid for those upgrades, that would be great. But unfortunately, you don't. So the last one to talk about is the Trojan support vehicle. This comes with a hull heavy bolter. You can give it a hunter killer missile and a pintle mount. It's a heavy storm bolter. And it is 98 points. Now, what do you get for that? So you get a Chimera chassis. So it has all the same stats as a regular Chimera, same wounds, same toughness, same armor save. It explodes the same on you could do the D3 mortal wounds, and it has smoke launchers. But the main reason you'd be looking at this, and it has a transport capacity of 6. Okay, it's basically a flatbed truck. It's got transport capacity of 6. Now, the main reason you'll be looking at this is the support vehicle special rule that it has. During the shooting phase, a single friendly regiment vehicle within 6 inches may reroll any failed hit rolls when making shooting attacks. That is very, very good. That is very powerful. It is a very good ability. The problem is the points cost. It's 98 points. You're adding the ability for something to reroll all failed hits for 100 points. It's one vehicle as well. Could it be useful on something like a Baneblade? Certainly. But that Baneblade's already taking for a quarter of the points in your army. And quite frankly, Baneblades tend to die turn 1 anyway. So it's not ideal. It's overcosted, and the thing to remember, guys, is as Krieg, keeping this as a specific Krieg video, you get access to the Mars Alpha Pattern Lehman Russ, and that can take a Conqueror cannon as a standard armament, and it costs the same as a regular Russ. So the Conqueror cannon lets you when you're in half range, lets you reroll all hit rolls, regardless of modifiers, within half range. So you can spend 100 points and give your vehicle reroll all failed hits, or you could just take Conqueror Lehman Russes, from your Mars Alpha Pattern ones. I mean, that would be the route I would go down. So that's it, guys. I know the last video was really long, but there was a lot of choice to go through. With this one, there's only 4. 2 of them are very similar: the Centaur Light Carrier and the Death Corps Assault Carrier. And the Storm Chimera is not great, and the Trojan support vehicle is good but overcosted. Honestly, looking at this, the Krieg are a bit deficient in transport options, but the best one you want to go for, if you're going to build a mechanized Krieg World War II style army rather than an infantry World War I army, you're looking at the assault carrier, the centaur light assault carrier, and you're going to cram that full of grenadiers, and you just want to take 6 squads of those. You want to take 2 battalions, 6 squads minimum, 90 points per squad. It's not that expensive. You know, you're looking at 540 points, and that's perfect. 540 points. You've got enough points left over there if you want to put loads into special weapons and whatnot. You can do. I would be tempted to keep them cheap and just take advantage of their ability to grab early game objectives. You know, if you look at this from a competitive point of view, looking at ITC, the ability to take board control is very good, and if the enemy shoots them and kills them, you don't really care, because then they're not shooting and killing your other more important vehicles. Now, if we stack this style army up against my Steel Legion style army, the Steel Legion style army is paying 126 per troop choice. So when I take 6 of those, we're looking at 756 points. Now, if we divide that by 90, that's 8.4. Okay, it's 8.4. So for a little bit more, for either less than my Steel Legion, you can get 2 extra vehicles on the board. That's not insignificant. And for if you were to go up and go for the go up by the 0.6 and go for the 9 squads, then 9 of these mechanized squads, then you are looking at the ability to field triple battalion, which is very important, because that's lots of command points, and it's not going to cost you all that much more. It's really not going to cost you all that much more. It's going to cost you like an extra 60 points to do that. And then you have 45 bodies with a 4+ save. That's just as good as 60 bodies with a 5+ save. And you've got 9 vehicles with 7 wounds each. That's pretty good. That is your 79 vehicles, 7 wounds each. That's 63 wounds. Make sure my math is not totally bad. Sorry. Yep, 63 wounds, good. I should trust my mental math more, shouldn't I? Which stacks up against the chimeras, who have 72 wounds. So the chimeras do have slightly more wounds, but they suffer from a bit more overkill, so it balances out. So you do have that ability, very much so, to do a nice armor wall. And after you've got these 9 troop choices, guess what? You're backing that with 3 tank commanders. You're backing that up with some marshals. That's 3 battalions easily, or your field officers, keep them cheap. And you're not as dependent on orders at all, because your grenadiers can just go in there and just you go in rapid fire range. You're without mercy, or doesn't help you, and you don't get reroll 1s. So you just get into rapid fire range. You don't need to worry about that. And which is a way of looking at it, of how you sort of take advantage of the fact you don't have access to first one, fast, second fire, and that leaves you a lot of points left over. That leaves you, even with your 9 squads and your 3 tank commanders and your 3 cheap officers, that's going to leave you with plenty of points. If you want to start taking another 3 Leman Russes, you could easily run this army with just Conquer cannons. You could easily run a mechanized Krieg style army that's rocking around with 9 little light infantry squads, 3 tank commanders, and 3 Leman Russes. That's 6 bits of armor. That's 15 bits of armor on the field. And if the enemy doesn't deal with your centaurs, then they're going to start getting punished by the guys inside. And if the enemy doesn't deal with your Leman Russes, then they're going to get pounded on by them. So that is quite a powerful and effective mechanized Krieg army. And the reason we're talking about it now in the dedicated transport video is because you can't have mechanized without transports. So it's the best place to talk about it. So there you go, guys. Lots of so the Krieg, whilst limited, do have access to a very unique option, and that unique option opens up a whole load of strategic opportunities for them. Now, I personally probably wouldn't go down the 9 centaur route. I'd go to 6. Just don't try and match the Steel Legion. Try and go cheaper than my... And the reason I'm comparing to my Steel Legion is because my Steel Legion are my classic mechanized army, which I've used extensively. I know them well. I know mechanized tactics. And they also, and both armies would play similarly. And also, they've both got gas masks, which is a very important deciding factor. When, jokes aside, it is when people are deciding which kind of gas mask army they want to go for. So, yes, the Krieg do have some really good options there. And I think if you would take your 6 centaurs, do it nice and cheap, because that's all I really want my Steel Legion for, is to get my mechanized squads, my Steel Legion, is to get access to the command points. So, the chimera heavy bolters, whilst okay, don't really ever achieve that much in each game. So, I mean, realistically, the best thing to do would be to take cheap troop options and put more which can grab objectives and put more points into shooting power, and the Krieg can do that better than the Steel Legion can. So that's a big point in the Krieg's favour. So I would take your minimum of your Krieg centaurs that you can get for your 2 battalions, and then I would take as many tank commanders and Mars Alpha Pattern Conquerors that I could get my hands on. That's how I would run it. Just get as many of those, and that will really put a lot of pain onto the enemy, and that will be quite good meta-wise, because if we analyse this in the current meta. Now, this may not stay relevant, if people watch this video later, but it's good for now. Now that Marines can't stay in the Devastator Doctrine all the time, mechanized forces do take a beating turn 1, but turn 2 onwards, they're laughing at Marines who are trying to bolt them to death. Sort of heavy bolt them to death, the stalker bolt them to death. So you've got that, and also Grey Knights. Grey Knights are a problem. They're smite spamming everything to death, but guess what? You don't care about Grey Knights when the only thing that they're smiting is a bunch of centaur-like carriers. Oh no, you're killing my 50-point transports. That's actually very anti-meta and a good point to consider if you're building up a mechanized force. Okay, so something to remember, I believe that everyone gets access to the regular light centaur. So, whilst this is a Krieg 2 video talking about being anti-meta, you could take a lot of those little Krieg, those little centaur carriers, and absorb smites that way. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. If there's any additional bits of tactical information that I have missed, the regular Krieg players that watch videos, please put them down in the comment section below. I have tried my best to get au fait and familiar with Krieg units before I talk about them, and I've compared them to other tactics that I have used. But of course, there are some Krieg players out there that are genuinely experts at their army who have played them through many editions, and you guys are a very valuable asset. So I appreciate any feedback and the tactical insights you can put down in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.